something's off somewhere with my process, and I'm just using money as an example. There's many other examples that could be used. It's really impossible for me to see at this moment in time that one thing that I do or one thing that I act upon may affect the lives of others advantageously or disadvantageously. Hollywood plays with this theme all the time, and I got to see another one, the other day, where somebody went back in time, and the thing is when you go back in time, you don't change anything, and I don't know, someone took something from the prehistoric era, and then of course they got back to their world, and it was all a mess because the caterpillar that, I don't know, did whatever it did back there no longer is around to do it. So the thing of that is when we make a choice, when we're looking at, is it good for everybody involved? How do I know that? How do I know that whatever it is I'm doing right here, right now, is going to be good for you? Or for anyone else? How do I make that judgment? And what's remarkable to me is somebody looks at these 4 little rules and they go, oh, yeah, okay, I got the answer. 30 seconds, I'm there, I can do this. And I'm not saying I'm not one of those that hasn't done that. But I'm saying as I sit here this morning and I think of that, I think all of a sudden is, wait a minute, those aren't so easy to answer, those questions. I don't get to go through those as quickly. And many times the answer is fairly obvious. But I say again, is it depends on your inner self. So the first thing, one of the things that happens in the lesson here that Doctor gave is he talks about love of God as being first on the agenda. So if we applied the 4 rules to that, it might be real easy to see where that's all right. Can loving God be good for you? Because it is one of the things that allows you to become more acquainted with the creative force. And the closer and the more acquainted we become with the creative force, the more we learn as to what that's about, and how to emulate that, and how to bring that about and to be creative beings. So, love of God may be a real good thing. And does it hurt anyone else? And believe it or not, there are people on the planet that may not like you loving God because it takes time away from them. There are people that may think in those terms. Oh, you're always back there. Whoops. We got close to home here. No, but he's always spending time in there meditating, or she's always doing this, or In fact, I'm not going to go there. Okay, but so when I look at that, let's assume for the moment that if you spent time, private time, whatever, in your meditation where you're attempting to get closer to God, and let's assume that that interfered with someone else in your life, your employer. He don't like you spending your lunch hours meditating. He'd rather have you spending your lunch hours thinking about what you were going to do in the afternoon at work. Or something like that. Or maybe any branch close to you. I suppose if you were working on a TV program or something and you chose to meditate in the middle of the program, it wouldn't work out too well. And you should schedule your time to learn more of God, as opposed to what's going on at that point. You may be busy at that point just what we want to call spreading the love instead of hibernating in a corner somewhere. But the whole aspect of any of this is when we're looking at something, when we're looking at our guidelines, our rules of life, is we have to have discernment as how they apply. We have to have discernment as to whether they work for me or for the rest of the individuals around me. And the same in your life, for you and the rest of the individuals around you. Many times I look at things And I see people look at things where the only thing that's considered right off the gun is what works for me. This works for me. Sorry, guys, this works for me. And if that's our mode of attitude, we're going to have and create in our lives a lot of conflict because it doesn't take into consideration other people. And part of our scripture today has to do with love of others, love of our fellow man. And many times we find that very, very difficult. But if we're in the Spirit, as we know God is Spirit and God is love, if we're in the spirit of that, it becomes easier for us to look at things in a more loving fashion, even to those that do things we don't care to look at kindly or lovingly at times. But if we're in the Spirit, we gain some understanding. It doesn't mean that other things don't take place, but it only means that within us is how we look, how we act, how we evaluate things is done more in the Spirit of God. So when I look at a question like, is it good for me, is it done in the Spirit of God, or is it done not in the Spirit of God? Is it done with no consideration of the Spirit within me? As I look at what's good for those around me, is it done in the Spirit? Or is it done in what I want? And as I look as to whether it affects anyone else, is it done in the Spirit? So everything that we do, every evaluation that we make, how we move forward on our daily basis, should be done in the Spirit, with love to all involved. What works for everyone? So I think we're going to stop there and let everyone play with that notion throughout the week, because I've played with it all week. Okay? And when I got to looking at my 4 rules and finding that they weren't so easy to apply anymore, it's led me to have to reconsider some things and reconsider things that I consider of importance at the moment, and evaluate whether I've gotten myself separated from where I ought to be and what I need to do to get back on track. We live in a very complicated, complex world, and it is very easy for us to get sidetracked. It's very easy for us to forget who and what we are and what our purpose is here on the planet. And that purpose only gets sustained or fulfilled when we have the first paramount thing in mind, and that is love of the Spirit that is richly within us if we allow it to be. And if we don't allow it to be, it won't. It doesn't, it isn't. It's strictly our choice. So our choice needs to be love of that Spirit within, so we can move forward to what I would call a more abundant, fuller, better life.